Now when you think of the Chicken Fillets YouTube channel, you think,
oh my god, he's a way to talk about Final Fantasy VII. Oh my god, this is a JRPG he just never shuts up about.
well, today that's what we're going to talk about, the JRPGs that we never shut up about. So I've invited friends of the channel to tell us about the JRPGs that they never shut up about. So let's get cracking with the knacking, and let's get our first guest on, which is James from D Review Ting, with his JRPG that he never shuts up about.
Hello, and thank you, John, for inviting me on to talk about JRPGs we do not shut up about. So, of course, how could I not talk about Final Fantasy? No. Do you know what? We're going to do it a little bit differently this time. There is another JRPG out there that I do actually really like to talk about, and that is Shadow Hearts for the PS2. So Shadow Hearts is one of those classic JRPGs that may have slipped under your radar, but it holds a very special place in my heart for gamers and gamers like myself. Shadow Hearts is a role-playing game developed by Sackroth and released by Midway Games back in 2001 on the PS2. This game is the first installment of the Shadow Hearts series and stands out for its historical events, supernatural elements, turn-based combat mechanics. However, the game is somewhat a sequel to the Kodaka game on the PS1. Shadow Hearts is set in the early 20th century and takes place during the era of the First World War. Players assume the role of Yuri, who is a disturbed man with some mysterious powers. The story begins in a small village in China, however this does expand to other various locations worldwide, including Japan, Europe, and even a brief visit to the US. Along the way he encounters a diverse cast of characters and confronts powerful super entities. One of the defining aspects of Shadow Hearts, and no doubt if you've heard anyone discuss this game before, you would have already heard about its unique Judgment Ring system. This plays out like your typical JRPG, however, when executing attacks or casting spells, you must time your button presses with a designated area on a spinning ring. This judgment system adds an element of skill and strategy to your battles, making each encounter more engaging, and rewards you for the time prompts similar to the games like Legend of Dragoon, which is no coincidence as some of the team actually worked on this game. One of the other unique aspects of this game is you have sanity points that you need to be mindful of, because basically you lose control and you turn into like a giant monster thing. One of the upsides though is you can learn powers that you never even knew you had. Now, for a game released in 2001, Shadow Hearts has detailed environments, character designs, and the game's artistic direction combines elements of dark fantasy, horror, and it perfectly captures this eerie, atmospheric, supernatural theme. This may also be down to the PS2 though, as it's very dark and gritty, but I do love that. The OST is dark and its haunting melodies are atmospheric and further immerse you into this world. Although Shadow Hearts may not have gained some of the level of mainstream and popularity of JRPGs of its time, I will say this definitely remains a cult classic. And I really don't hear too many people talking about this game, and I will often say to people, go out, play this game, check it out, it's amazing. The game's intriguing story, unique gameplay mechanics, and memorable characters have really left an impression on me. So there are other games in the series that I'm yet to play, but Shadow Hearts definitely holds a special place in my heart. And I will say if you get the chance to go out and play it, do it. Anyways, thanks John for having me on. Let's hear the next one.
Now thank you to James from The Review Ting for that, and remember to check out their channel. And remember, yes, he has given up on the PSP. Now next up we have another friend of the channel who's been on this channel a good few times now. It's Retromania.
Grandia, Grandia, Grandia. Oh hi, it's me Retromania. Thanks again to Chicken Fillets for inviting me on his channel for the third time. Third time, it's the charm, how they say. And I'm ready once again to annoy your fanbase with my European accent. The game I choose, but I cannot stop talking about, it's World of Ellipsia. I hate this game so much I cannot stop talking about it. The game had a fucking game-breaking bug 4 hours into the game and I cannot refund this game and it's so annoying and I cannot... It's about good games, not bad games, you know. Wait. Oh, it's about good games I cannot stop talking about, not about bad games. I should cut this from the video. I will look like a clown. Well, I will just cut down this part from the video before I send it to Chicken Fillets, and yeah, where was I? Oh yes, Grandia. I am a huge Grandia fan, Grandia simp, if you couldn't tell by the games and merchandise I own from this small but amazing series. The first Grandia is in my opinion a true masterpiece. The music, the charming and lovable characters, the bonds you create with them, the magic fusion system, the level up system, the unique 2D 3D camera and environments, the pixel art style, everything is just perfect. And to prove to you how much I talk about this masterpiece, about Grandia, here are some of my previous video clips to show you to you how much I talk about this masterpiece. Here we go. I tried to find a negative game journalist review for the game Grandia, but there really isn't one, what speaks volumes about the quality of this game, of Grandia, one of the best JRPGs ever made. I want a real remake of this masterpiece, if possible with Square's 2D HD technology. People who follow me will know that I'm a huge Grandia simp. Okay, I think this is more than enough to prove my point. Thanks again to Chicken Fillets for inviting me on his channel, and I wish you all a wonderful day. See ya!
Now thank you to Retromania for his entry into this list. Utterly fantastic entry. Now next up we have a good friend of the channel, Colin Locke, with his JRPG that he never shuts up about.
Thanks again for having me on, Chicken Fillets. I've always enjoyed collaborating with you on previous projects, and I'm happy to once again return. So what game is it that I just can't shut up about? That's easily The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. So I'll be breaking down why I can't shut up about this game. Some of you may know I got into Trails because I did a photography job for a friend and he was a bit strapped for cash, but was able to get me a copy of the Lionheart edition of Cold Steel 1 for the PlayStation Vita. The game came at a time where I wasn't in the best of places mentally, and I just identified with Reen Schwarzer's own mental health struggles as they were of a similar nature. It's these struggles Reen faces throughout the Cold Steel arc that drew me into this world. Having that one really relatable character who often found himself in crappy situations because of his inability to say no and being unsure of his place in the world hit home, and it hit home hard for me. Another reason I fell in love with this game was because it was on the PlayStation Vita, and since I'm an insomniac, I often game in bed late at night because I just can't sleep, and it's one of the best ways to keep myself occupied. As a result, I was able to get through a particularly nasty insomnia episode by basically powering through Trails of Cold Steel 1 super quickly. I loved the game so much, I then bought Trails of Cold Steel for the Vita right away off of eBay. A day or two after I ordered Cold Steel 2, the game arrived. While I did like the gameplay of Cold Steel 1, I will admit it was rather bare bones, something that cannot be said about Cold Steel 2. That game ratchets up the mechanics to play around with to a large degree whilst retaining the identity Cold Steel had. I was still in the same insomnia episode, so I marathoned Cold Steel 2 as well, which left a gaping hole once I completed the game. I then had to wait nearly 2 years to play Cold Steel 3, which was an agonizing wait. I'm pretty sure I drove my friends as crazy as I drive my editors with my nattering away about the games. But the games had left such a huge impact on me and converted me into a Trails fanboy, and by extension a Falcom fan as well. Cold Steel 3 came along in 2019, another year where I'd been struggling pretty badly with some stuff, and Cold Steel 3 got me through the experience of a work environment that had gone toxic. As for Cold Steel 4, well, that came out during the height of the pandemic, so it was the right game at the right time for me to just forget about things. Of the Erebonian arc, I would say the back half is my favorite as it's so mechanically rich and it completes the narrative for the arc in which I entered with. Well, mostly. Trails into Reverie ultimately completes the narrative. I'm probably neck deep in that game by the time this video comes out. Basically, these games are special to me because they came at the right point in my life, and they're that excellent balance of amazing storytelling and amazing gameplay. Anyways, thanks for having me on yet again, Chicken Fillets. I cannot wait to see some of the games the other creators mention in their entries.
Thank you to Colin for that fantastic piece about why he loves the Trails of Cold Steel saga. But there is someone who is synonymous to the Trails of series, and that would be our next guest, the Kiseki Nut. So it's now to TKN for his JRPG that he never shuts up about.
Howdy, you beautiful people, and thanks to my man Chicken Fillet for letting me be a part of this awesome collab. Now, when it comes to JRPGs I never shut up about, well, there's Ys8 and any Trails game, but this time around I'm going to point you to a title that I rarely see mentioned elsewhere, which is unfortunate because it deserves way more praise than it gets, so I'm going to remind you of Atelier Sophie 2. I'm a relatively new fan to the Atelier series. I've only played 7 games in the series so far, which sounds a lot, but when you consider there are over 20 mainline entries to this day, I've still got a long way to go. But despite my lack of exposure so far, I am smitten with the franchise. I often talk about it in my wider circles, and Atelier Sophie 2 stands at the pinnacle of the series. Of that, there is no doubt in my mind. This title is the 4th game from the Mysterious sub-series and acts as a sequel to the first game, Atelier Sophie. In this one, Sophie and Placta are drawn into the dream world of Erdeviga, a fantastical world where inhabitants have been living in perpetuity for years. Sophie and her crew must unravel the secrets of Erdeviga in order to escape. Now, Sophie 2 reflects something that Gust have excelled in over the past 5 years or so, and that is clear and noticeable improvement from game to game. The progress they have made as a studio in such a short time is nothing short of astounding, and Sophie 2 feels like the culmination of that. Compare this one to the original Sophie back in 2015 and you'll realise how far they've come. Sophie 2 has so much polish and care put into it. The world is beautiful, the turn-based combat is excellent with its switching mechanic taking centre stage, the grid-based alchemy is satisfying and in-depth, and the story is actually fairly good this time around in a series which is normally not too memorable in this facet. Naturally though, the characters are also very strong in this game, having good chemistry with each other and relatable backstories to piece together. This is hardly a surprise, as Atelier normally excels in this area. These games are more character-driven narratives than anything else. I absolutely adore this game. It solidifies my admiration for Gust as a developer, and I am continually looking forward to what they come up with next.
A fantastic entry from TKN there. So fantastic that I actually went out and bought the game itself because of it. Still, it's still wrapped. So the next entry is actually from good friend of the channel, Luca from Fatal Gaming. I hope I've said that right, man. Let's see what he's saying.
Hi, this is Luca from Fatal Gaming, and thanks so much for having me, John. When John asked me to be part of this video, I got so excited because I can finally talk about one of my favorite games. Again. And that is Crosscode. Crosscode is a retro-inspired action RPG from my homeland, Germany, which may cause people to not classify this as a JRPG. But despite the country it was developed in, it is a JRPG through and through. In Crosscode we follow Leah. She lost her memory, her ability to talk, and is trapped inside the online game Crossworlds. She's able to communicate with the character outside the game, and with his help, we try to uncover the mysteries behind Leah's person and the online game itself. The story is one of the most engaging I've ever experienced, thanks to a beautiful presentation, well-written dialogue, epic moments, and twists you probably don't see coming. What makes the story and character interactions really special are the philosophical themes this game touches, like identity and life itself. Finding the answers to these questions lead to the most emotional moments of Crosscode that can hit surprisingly hard. Of course, the story is just one important aspect of an RPG, and the gameplay is another, and this is what makes Crosscode really unique. For starters, we have access to 4 elements, all of which provide a whole bunch of different skills that make combat incredibly deep and engaging. Switching between elements and skills is super intuitive and fun. But what makes Crosscode really special is the twin-stick shooter-like range attack. Of course you have a melee attack, but Leah is also able to throw spheres. You do that by aiming with your mouse, respectively the right stick. With that line you can see in which direction you throw the spheres and where they bounce back. Not only makes that combat way more complex and fun, the spheres are also used for something else. You know, Crosscode puts a heavy focus on mind-bending puzzles. And this is where the spheres come in again. The dungeons are full of the most difficult puzzles I ever had the pleasure to solve, and most of them are partially solved by throwing the spheres at the right time, in the right angle, and the right spot. So if you like games that really test your skills to solve puzzles, then Crosscode is perfect. I could go on and on about this beautiful indie game. What do you think? Do you know Crosscode? And if so, did you enjoy it? Thanks again, John, for having me on this collaboration. This was so much fun. And happy birthday to your channel. Alright guys, have a great day and until next time.
Luca with Crosscode there, and Crosscode is a utter banger and was actually the reason I discovered his channel in the first place. Now, someone who got me onto their channel before is Alex from Backlog Battle. So let's see what they're saying.
What's up everyone? Alex here, and I want to thank Chicken Fillets for inviting me to this awesome collab. A JRPG that I can never stop thinking about is Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now, why is that? For starters, it's a love letter to Dragon Quest. From the game's title, to Ichiban's devotion of all things DQ, and I don't mean Dairy Queen, every fight is skewed into Ichiban's vision of his life as a Dragon Quest character. It even comes complete with an employment center where you can apply for new jobs. And while the comedy and quirkiness is certainly inspired by said game, the rest of Yakuza Like a Dragon is a Japanese melodramatic tour de force. It's got betrayals, near deaths, baby swapping. Wait, what? Men taking off their shirts. Okay. Even more men taking off their shirts. Wait a minute. And lots of people waiting for their turn to attack. If you've never played a Yakuza game before, Yakuza Like a Dragon is the perfect entry point, especially if you're a fan of turn-based RPGs. And you wouldn't need to wait long for a sequel too, because Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is coming out in early 2024.
Banger after banger this list is just providing, so thank you to Alex for a fantastic pick there in Yakuza Like a Dragon. Utterly fantastic game. Now, an utterly fantastic content creator and friend is Eric Ladd. Let's see what Flannel Eric Ladd is saying.
Hey everybody, Eric here. Thank you so much, Chicken Fillets, for asking me to come on the show today. I'm very excited to chat about a game that I just can't stop chatting about and haven't stopped chatting about since I found out about the game. Now, this game is a game that defines a specific kind of genre of games, JRPGs. It's very quirky, very funny, very unique. It's got like a very niche and cult following. It's a game that some people love to hate and some people love to love as well. So I figured let's talk about, well, before I talk about it, may as well change into the outfit. Earthbound. Now, Earthbound is a game that came out 30 years ago almost, and the ad campaign or the press campaign back in the day didn't really sell it very well, hence why it's a more obscure and more niche kind of game now, because I think it only sold roughly over like 100 some odd thousand copies. There was a point in time where this game was a bargain bin game throughout the US, and oh boy, I mean, even looking at costs for the game now to buy the physical cartridge is quite a pretty penny. So before we talk about Earthbound, let me show you how much of a Earthbound super fan I am. We've got the boxed amiibo. We've got a Starman amiibo from Etsy, which isn't actually an amiibo. We've got the Japan exclusive Gacha Machine Mother 2 toys, which are really cool. We've got a very cool Famicom with the original Mother cartridge, which I personally went to Japan and bought. We've got the actual Earthbound cartridge here. Don't ask me how much I paid for it because it was a lot. I've also got the Earthbound Player's Guide, which came in the box with the game. I've got the Mother 2 soundtrack, which is Earthbound. And of course, my little contribution to the Earthbound series and fandom with my record, Boundless, which is a musical tribute to Earthbound. This was something that I did on Kickstarter back in 2021. Pretty cool. It was a limited run of 150, which are all sold out now. And if you know anything about Earthbound, you'll know that the final boss is kind of like a deep, dark red. So you have the cute aesthetic that is on the outside, but lurking deep within the story is the evil bad guy, which I'm not going to spoil because if you haven't played it, I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, the vinyl record replicates that evil that's looming beneath the surface. I cannot forget the birthday cake my wife got me for my 22nd birthday. It was a Nest cake. So anyway, I've got a license to talk about Earthbound. Let's quickly sum it up. Earthbound is a game about a boy named Ness whose whole world is turned upside down after a meteor crashes behind his house. Animals go crazy, people go crazy, you have psychic powers, you meet other kids who have psychic powers, the dialogue is weird and funny, the music is great and super varied between rock and roll inspired tracks to more ambient and textural sounds. The visual aesthetic of the game is also really charming and cartoon-like. It does a lot of things right for turn-based combat, taking the Dragon Quest formula and making it a lot more approachable. It's also a really great game to pick up if you haven't played JRPGs before. I'm out of time now, so that's all I can say, but I love Earthbound. Chicken Fillets, I love you. Go play the damn game. We'll see you another time.
And glad there with a fantastic pick of Earthbound, a game I am still yet to play, annoyingly enough. Now, another game that I'm still yet to play is a game that the gaming shelf never shuts up about. So let's see what Taylor's saying.
What's going on, everyone? This is Taylor from The Gaming Shelf, and today I'm super excited to talk about a game that I won't shut up about because, well, I just won't shut up about this game, and that is Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, why won't I shut up about this game? Well, for one, it's an absolute masterpiece, easily the best strategy RPG ever made, and I'm not going to hear any arguments otherwise. To me, what makes it so good is its deep story with rich characters and super customizable gameplay that every time you replay it, it's never the same. You can mix and match abilities from different classes in so many fun ways. And heck, if you just want to be lazy, you can just use Orlando and just absolutely crush everyone. And also why I won't shut up about it is because this game desperately deserves a remaster. We just got all the pixel remasters for the old school Final Fantasies, all the PlayStation Final Fantasies got remasters except for Tactics. How does Crystal Chronicles have a remaster and Final Fantasy Tactics doesn't? It's absolutely criminal. Now there's a lot of rumors about a remaster. It's been on the NVIDIA GeForce Now leak, so it's definitely coming. But man, this is just one game I absolutely love, and I'm never going to stop talking about it until we get that remaster, we get a sequel, or maybe even both. So if you haven't played this game already, go and play it because I'm not going to shut up about it.
Final Fantasy Tactics from The Gaming Shelf. They are utterly fantastic. Now my next guest is a lean, mean, well he's not so mean, retro JRPG machine. Yes, it's David Vink RPGs.
Hi everybody, this is David over at the channel David Vink, and thank you so much for having me on Chicken Fillets. The game that I cannot stop talking about, the game that I always just keep on gushing about, has got to be Luffia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals. This game was released late in the SNES's life cycle. At its core, you might just think that Luffia 2 is just like yet another turn-based traditional JRPG, and yeah, that is true, but there's so much more to it. Puzzle dungeons were introduced here. Zelda has nothing on the puzzles of Luffia 2. These things are just devious. Maxim has access to all sorts of different tools to utilize to solve all sorts of different puzzles, from bombing down pillars to lower walls, to using a hookshot to cross gaps, to using flaming arrows to burn bushes and everything. He is just going in there and kicking ass and taking names. Not only do the tools solve puzzles though, but you can utilize your tools like your arrows and your hookshot in order to stun the enemies. Because that's right, encounters occur on screen. And it's almost like a roguelike too, because for every one movement that you make, the enemies also do one movement. It is a huge, sprawling adventure with tons of towns, like over 20 of them, tons of dungeons, and a huge traditional world map that I just love. And then the characters. I cannot say enough good things about these characters. You might think that, it's an SNES JRPG. How deep can they really go here? But let me tell you, they do. It's one of the best love stories ever told. You get to watch Maxim grow up and get married and have children and go off into the world, leave his past behind, and create a new life for himself. It is just absolutely wonderful. I can't say enough good things about Luffia 2, and if you haven't tried it out, you need to. It is the pinnacle of the Luffia series, and I dare say, one of the absolute best RPGs on the entire SNES system.
David Vink there with Luffia 2, a JRPG that he never shuts up about, and quite rightly so. It's supposed to be fantastic. fantastic. Now, another fantastic friend of the channel is Public Enema. So let's see what Public Enema's saying.
Hey there, it's Public Enema. So when Chicken Fillets approached me about this idea for RPGs that we never stop talking about, I had a hard time coming up with a game, because I could go on and on forever about Final Fantasy IX, or the Trails series, or Ys 8, so I asked Mrs. Public Enema for help. Like, what game do you hear the most about from me? And she said right now, easily, it's Undertale, and after doing a little bit of self-reflection, she's absolutely right. Although Undertale was originally released in 2015, I didn't actually get around to playing it until last year. So what exactly makes Undertale so noteworthy for me? And it easily starts with the music. I mean, the soundtrack is absolutely fantastic. You know, from Spider Dance to the hugely popular Megalovania. I mean, there's so many certified bangers on this soundtrack. And the music does a really good job from the boss themes to the area music of fitting what's actually happening in the game and fitting the tone of that moment. The game has an uncanny ability to go from it's a very funny game, but also it can shift to heartfelt to heart rate at a moment's notice. And the core of that is the very strong cast of characters within Undertale. You know, from Sans to Undyne to Papyrus. There's so many memorable moments with these characters, and it makes it hard to not root for them. If you've played Undertale, you know that the whole shtick of the game is you can either be a pacifist, or you can go through and you can fight through all the enemies like you would in a normal RPG. And the game just does such a fantastic job when you're going through a genocide route to it makes it hard. Like, it makes it very difficult, not necessarily as far as like the game difficulty, but just physically destroying these people that you've kind of come to love over the other playthroughs. You know, the battle system is very unique. I've never seen anything like it. It never gets stale. You know, you're dodging around bullet hell segments, trying not to get hit. And then just the puzzle of finding like the right combination of words and actions to be able to spare enemies through a pacifist route. Like, it never gets old. But ultimately, the thing that ties all of this together is the music. I mean, my Spotify algorithm is forever ruined thanks to Toby Fox and this soundtrack. But there's one particular moment that I recalled where I was playing through my first time, and you reach a certain point in the game where you get like a pretty heavy lore dump, and just like the main Undertale theme starts playing, and it just makes that moment so powerful. And, you know, for a game that I probably paid $5 for, I've gotten, at least 3 full playthroughs through, countless hours of music listened to. Like, it's been one of the best values I've ever spent in gaming. It's no wonder that I can't shut up about it, because it's a truly unique game. It gets talked about a lot, and, its fan base is quite large. But if you're like me, and you are one of the few people that haven't played it yet, then I highly recommend give this game a shot. You won't shut up about it either. As always, big thanks to Chicken Fillets for pulling this collaboration together. I was happy to be a part of it, and it was a pretty fun topic to think about. So be sure to let us know in the comments down below what you think about our choices, and thanks for watching.
Like Enema, totally correct there with Undertale. The soundtrack is an utter banger after banger after banger. But I'll tell you who's a way to talk about another banger of a JRPG that he never shuts up about. It's Upper Nimbus.
Now it's riding time! Whoa! Alley-oop!
Hey guys, I'm Upper Nimbus. So today, Chicken Fillets has asked me to talk about an RPG I cannot shut up about. Obviously, to me, the original Xenoblade Chronicles is my favorite JRPG of all time. I honestly had no idea what to expect when playing it. I thought, whoa, look at these 2 great titans battling it out, how cool. And then it took me a while to realize that the game is set on the corpses of these titans. So the setting in itself was already pretty fantastical, and I thought, yep, I need to find out why there are these giants frozen into place, and why is there this mechanical race from the Mechonis attacking the people of Bionis. And the driving factor that sets Shulk on his journey of vengeance is the loss of a beloved friend. This is where Shulk wields the Monado for the first time and unlocks the ability to see the future. But still, what is it about this game that is so magical that I can't stop thinking about it and talking about it? Well, the music, the world, the atmosphere, the emotions. All of those elements combined blend seamlessly and perfectly into one of the most beautiful JRPG experiences I've ever had in my life. The balance is phenomenal, especially when the music works perfectly in cue with story elements and when cutscenes take place. Songs like Engage the Enemy hit home so hard when it comes to high point moments in the story. And the plot twists in this game, oh my god, when you thought you had seen it all and you knew what this game was about, it will throw one curveball after the other. The story and the emotional roller coaster keeps ascending. I kid you not. This game is like Gurren Lagann. It spirals upward and upward and upward, and that spiral gets bigger and bigger. It is like a barreling freight train. That is what it feels like when you're playing the original Xenoblade Chronicles. If you've never played Xenoblade Chronicles and you love RPGs and you're a big sucker for big brain stories, please play this game when you get the chance. But seriously, if you are going to play this game, please play the definitive edition on Switch. You won't regret it. So there you have it, everybody. That was my game for the JRPG I could not shut up about. Chicken Fillets, thank you so much for having me on your channel once more. I truly appreciate it. I had a blast making this video, and I'll pass it on to the next person. Thank you so much. See ya!
Thank you to Upper Nimbus there for telling us about Xenoblade Chronicles and why it's a JRPG that he never shuts up about. But you know what? I think it's my turn to talk about a JRPG I never shut up about.
The reunion at hand may bring joy. It may bring fear. But let us embrace whatever it brings. For they are coming back. At last, the promise has been made.
At E3 2015, the JRPG that I never shut up about was announced, and that was Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, Final Fantasy VII is my all-time favourite game, but this comes surely close to that. Now, you might be thinking, why have you been talking about this since 2015? To give you an understanding, Final Fantasy VII, as I mentioned just a minute ago, is my all-time favourite JRPG, and it will always be that. But for me, with Final Fantasy VII Remake, I was able to revisit Midgar from a new perspective and to see new life brought into these characters that I grew up with. The likes of seeing NPCs which had very little dialogue to them, so the likes of the members of Avalanche, Biggs, Jesse, Wedge, having more life to them, being able to love these characters more than you ever did. I mean, Jesse's fantastic as a character. Now, in the original Final Fantasy VII, one moment which always stood out to me was when you left Midgar for the first time and you got onto the open world map. Now, for my first JRPG experiencing this was just blew my little mind. Now, I had this moment again with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that was when I visited for the first time Sector 7. Sector 7 in the original was just a small place, just a placeholder place. But Sector 7 now was brimming full of life with the NPCs which talked to each other. It expanded and it was like the place that I imagined in my head when growing up. The way that the characters talk to each other in this, the banter between the likes of Cloud, Tifa and Barret and Aerith is just unbelievable. And it just brings a whole new depth to these characters, which again I grew up with. Now, it could be that the nostalgia really gripped me with this game, but the game, it just spoke utter volumes to me. Now, although that the remake is basically based in Midgar only, for me, bit biased here, but the Midgar section in Final Fantasy VII, the original, is my favourite part. So having a game fully focused just on that section and being able to expand a 4 to 5 hour section to a full titled game, unbelievable. It expanded so much, it added new bits into the story, and I'm all for that. Now the combat system as well, the hybrid action combat system was a dream to play, and it still is, and I really am looking forward to this being expanded, and it's already been expanded with the Yuffie DLC, the Intergrade DLC, well, the Intermission DLC. And to be honest with you, the Final Fantasy VII Remake will be the JRPG that I will speak for a long time, because with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth round the corner, oh, I've just got so much Final Fantasy VII in my life. And then after that, well, whatever the third game's going to be, I'm all for it. But to sum it up, this is how Final Fantasy VII is for me.
Hello, I am Final Fantasy VII. I got a big sword that goes swoosh swoosh.
So there we have it. These are the JRPGs that we never shut up about. Is there any JRPGs that weren't on the list that you never shut up about? Let me know in the comments down below. And please remember to check out everyone's channel and give them a subscribe and a like as well. But please, if you want to help me grow the channel, please like, share and subscribe. And if you want to be kept up to date with everything Chicken Fillets, please hit that notification bell. This has been Chicken Fillets, and until next time, tatty bye!